Mineta Leadership Academy at the Mineta Transportation Institute is pleased to welcome you to a discussion of leadership with one of our distinguished leadership fellows. I'm Dr. Patrick Sherry, Research Professor and Coordinator of the Mineta Leadership Academy. I'll be your host and guide for today's discussion. Our speaker today is Mr. Greg Winfree, Executive Director of the Texas Transportation Institute. Mr. Winfree has had a distinguished career leading teams of transportation professionals in a number of different agencies as they have tackled many of the most important transportation challenges facing the USA today. Let's welcome Greg. Greg, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time, and I look forward to learning about your secrets about what makes you a successful leader in the transportation field. Perhaps we could just start with your background. How did you find your way into transportation leadership roles?
Sure. So I made it to the most senior levels of US DOT, principally through relationships and reputation.
Let me ask you a little bit more specifically, what is your philosophy? What guides you in your role as a leader?
I would say I'm a compassionate leader. I'm very people-oriented. Every organization I'm affiliated with, it's about the people, it's about their families, it's about caring for others, it's about always having time to talk with someone, regardless of what they want to talk about. They appreciate the time that a leader gives. They appreciate not being shrugged off or given short shrift. So I can't say that I consciously focus on that. That's my nature. But, if you go back to DOT, if you go back to the mining company, the one constant you will hear is that Greg always gave people as much time as they needed to convey whatever information or tell whatever story, and they always felt important because of that. So I commissioned our team top to bottom, looking at the strategic plan, to incorporate diversity as it's meant and as it's intended to be used in an organization, equity and inclusion, which means professionalism, because sometimes organizations with extraordinarily bright people fall into rigid ways of speaking with one another, sometimes bordering on grating and disrespectful. And we dealt with this when I was at USDOT. Where'd you get your doctorate? Well, you only went to so-and-so. I went here, and I'm right, you're wrong. And there was very little collegial discussion around the water cooler. So we needed to break that down as well, kind of under the professionalism umbrella. So keeping a focus on it, having the organization understand that it's important, and being purposeful and not evasive in discussing diversity, equity, and inclusion. Too many times folks are uncomfortable, so they dance around the issues. You've got to be direct. What will we look like when we are where we're trying to go? Helping them understand that it's a constant process to focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're never there. It's always a goal. It's always a shining star. And we can't be satisfied until we're satisfied, and we will know it when we see it, but we're not there, and we've got a lot of work to do.
Greg, you're dealing with some extremely important issues. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on how leaders should deal with diversity and inclusiveness issues during these divisive times when we're faced with the tragic death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. What are your thoughts?
So as we sit here today, it's fair to say that the murder of George Floyd, of the incident involving Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and all of the other publicized incidents involving Black folks in this country have caused a racial reckoning. So these are the kinds of questions that leaders get that aren't in the books, right? And this is where being people-oriented comes to the fore, because it's only most effective if I have frank discussions with folks about what's going on, about how I'm impacted, about how I'm viewed, about my role here in the Texas A&M university system. So to be purposeful in having those discussions has been key. I'm pleased that folks are asking those kinds of questions, because those are the kinds of questions that you're not going to get in Leadership 101. You have to be prepared for any number of conversations or any number of topics that are outside of what you think the job is on a day-to-day basis, and be prepared to provide perspective and leadership across the entire continuum.
Thank you, Greg. Very useful insights and advice for leaders in these difficult times. In closing, Greg has given us some important insights into how he leads. He mentioned the importance of putting people first, making the time to listen to everyone. But he also reminds us of the importance of keeping the focus on key issues, such as diversity, by talking about how it made him feel and how it impacts each member of the team. Finally, Greg points out the need for persistence and an ongoing commitment to keeping the focus on diversity issues until we get there. And he reminds us we will know when we get there. Thank you.